Chapter 31. Not mom, but stepmom. Not only was Guan Baoqing dumbfounded, but Guan Ruerui and Bai Shuqin were equally stunned. That sense of frustration, both unexpected and yet anticipated. The moment they saw Guan Xiushu clearly, the last bit of luck in their hearts completely vanished. Guan Xiushu. She really was the Jiang family's eldest daughter. After the initial shock, what followed was intense jealousy. Guan Ruerui's eyes even turned red. She had always known that Guan Xiushu was beautiful. In the past, whenever the family went out to banquets, in order to prevent her from overshadowing herself, Guan Ruerui would deliberately pick out dresses with tricky and difficult-to-manage colors for her, because it was her kind selection. Guan Xiushu would be forced to wear them by Bai Shuqin, even if she didn't want to, either put it on or wear nothing at all. It just so happened that Guan Xiushu had fair skin, the kind of fair that was almost translucent. Even dark purple, a color that would appear overly mature on others, she could easily pull off. Despite her years of effort, she had only managed to get Guan Xiushu labeled as good-looking but lacking taste within their social circle. But now, away from the Guan family, Guan Xiushu was wearing an exquisitely crafted two-tone camellia gown. Elegant and restrained yet full of vitality. Even though she was in a black dress, she gave off a sense of pure white beauty. Her mere appearance instantly drew everyone's attention. Is that the Jiang family's eldest daughter? The dress she's wearing looks like the autumn-summer concept haute couture that Master Airy released not long ago. A woman whispered beside her. Women are always interested in discussing clothes, jewelry, and bags, and upon hearing this, someone immediately chimed in. As expected of the Jiang family, they can even get their hands on this kind of concept haute couture that hasn't been officially released. Have you forgotten about the Jiang family's fourth aunt? With her status in the fashion world, getting a couple of these haute couture pieces would just be a matter of a word, right? The more Guan Ruerui heard, the more jealous she became, and she couldn't help but quietly approach them, pretending to be worried and interjecting in a low voice. Could it be fake? As soon as she said this, the voices of the women discussing earlier abruptly stopped, and then they all turned their heads to look at her with an expression as if they were looking at a weirdo. After a long while, someone chuckled with sarcasm and disdain, and then without another word, they all walked to the other side, as if to stay away from an idiot. Guan Ruerui was so angry that her face was about to twist. She subconsciously wanted to seek comfort from Pei Yuanqing, but when she turned her head, she saw that Pei Yuanqing was also staring blankly in Guan Xiushu's direction, clearly mesmerized. Guan Ruerui gritted her teeth, her hand holding the clutch tightening. Just then, Guan Xiushu's gaze sharply turned towards her. Guan Xiushu didn't see the Guan family at first glance, but subconsciously saw the direction of the dark aura in the crowd. She was still thinking if there was another job coming her way, but when she took a closer look, it turned out to be an acquaintance. It had only been 2 days since she last saw her, but the faint gray shadow behind Guan Ruerui had now turned black, and the shadow, which had been closely attached to her back, had now become a semi-encircling state. She didn't know what big mistake Guan Ruerui had made to attract such a thing. The slightly smiling eyes of Guan Xiushu became a little cold. Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Hui stood beside Guan Xiushu, watching the subtle change in her eyes, and subconsciously followed her gaze to see the Guan family. They frowned secretly. Beside them, Grandpa Jiang was already smiling as he solemnly introduced Guan Xiushu to the guests. Thank you all for coming today. The Jiang family has relied on your care for many years, so I would like to share the joyous occasion of my Jiang family with everyone. I solemnly introduce to you my eldest granddaughter, the eldest daughter of the Jiang family, Jiang Xiushu. Accompanying the old master's introduction, Guan Xiushu, now Jiang Xiushu, retracted her gaze from Guan Ruerui, and appropriately put on a polite smile, greeting everyone present. Regarding the name Jiang Xiushu, Old Master Jiang had mentioned it to her beforehand. In addition to changing the surname, according to her generation's tradition of using the water radical, Old Master Jiang originally wanted to rename her Jiang Su. It both uses the water radical and has a pronunciation similar to her current name, symbolizing clarity and vitality. But Jiang Xiushu didn't agree, because the name Xiushu was actually given by her master, and she was used to this name. She simply said that her fate lacked wood, and with a bit of flattery, she convinced old Master Jiang. Guan Baoqing, who was in the crowd, couldn't believe it at first, but upon hearing the name Xiu, he was certain. The child he raised for 18 years was actually the Jiang family's long-lost child. At this moment, he was almost bursting with anger. Thinking back to the cooperation opportunity that seemed to fall from the sky, and then the sudden cancellation of the cooperation, as well as by Shuqin and Rui's guilty expressions, he understood everything. Everything was because Xiu was the Jiang family's biological daughter. The sudden favor from the Jiang family and their initiative to cooperate was because of Xiu, and the subsequent sudden cancellation of the cooperation was also because of Xiu. And all of this, his wife and daughter clearly knew it, but they didn't say anything. Thinking of this, Guan Baoqing glared fiercely at his wife beside him. Bai Shuqin was startled by his gaze and subconsciously shrunk to the side. Her expression was still somewhat innocent. She didn't want to either. If she had known that Xiu was the Jiang family's child, she wouldn't have said those words in front of Jiang Yuqing that day. Recalling that she blatantly asked Jiang Yuqing for his daughter's spot for her own daughter that day, it's no wonder that the other party was so angry at the time. Guan Baoqing and Bai Shuqin were now full of regret. Regretting it to death. If they had known that Xiu was the Jiang family's child, based on their family's 18 years of raising Xiu, the Guan family would have been a frequent guest of the Jiang family. With the Jiang family's influence, it would have been entirely possible for the Guan family to rise to a higher level. But now, if they hadn't tried every means to obtain an invitation, the Jiang family wouldn't have even sent them a card, which was enough to show the Jiang family's attitude. Guan Baoqing felt a moment of dull pain in his chest, and regret and anger almost blocked his chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. But thinking of the occasion today, he could only endure it. Guan Baoqing's chest heaved violently, and in the next moment, he suddenly seemed to think of something, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Yes, he couldn't lash out on an occasion like today. Neither could the Jiang family. Thinking of this, Guan Baoqing's regretful expression suddenly changed, and a warm smile appeared on his face. He grabbed Bai Shuqin's hand and quickly walked through the crowd, directly to the front. He opened his mouth, his voice full of tenderness and joy. Xiu, you look so beautiful tonight. I'm relieved to see you doing well. Since you left, your mother and I have been thinking about you all the time. Saying that, he paused under the slightly puzzled gazes of the crowd, then slapped his forehead as if in annoyance and smiled at old Master Jiang beside him. Oh, look at me. I'm so used to saying it. I should change my way of speaking now. Not mom, but adoptive mother. Chapter 32. Ruin her reputation. Guan Baoqing's words directly clarified his relationship with Jiang Xiu. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for the surrounding guests to hear, and when they looked at Guan Baoqing again, their gazes instantly held a bit more politeness and eagerness. The adoptive parents of the Jiang family's eldest daughter. Wouldn't that make them the benefactors of the Jiang family? The benefactors of the Jiang family must also be befriended. Even without looking around, Guan Baoqing could feel the sudden friendliness in the surrounding gazes, and he knew that his goal had been achieved. However, he didn't notice the instantaneous darkening of Jiang Yuqing's face when he heard his words. The moment he noticed the Guan family, he had been thinking of having the security guards quietly ask them to leave, but before he could arrange it, this person had directly come up to him. Having been through the ups and downs of the business world, he understood the other party's thoughts and intentions clearly with just one look. Old Master Jiang's expression remained unchanged, with a smile still on his face, giving the impression that he was very amiable and easy to talk to. So you're Xiu's adoptive parents. No wonder Xiu has been so well taken care of these years. You're too kind, old Master Jiang. If we had known earlier that Xiu was from the Jiang family, we would have sent her back long ago. Oh. Old Master Jiang raised his eyebrows in a good-tempered manner, then suddenly turned to Jiang Yuqing beside him. The Guan family raised Xiu, so they are honored guests of our family. Eldest, take them upstairs and entertain them properly. Don't be impolite. Jiang Yuqing had wanted to get the Guan family out of here for a long time, and immediately stepped forward upon hearing this. Guan Baoqing understood the meaning behind old Master Jiang's words. If he followed him upstairs, how would he be able to take advantage of the guests to ask the Jiang family for benefits? He hurriedly said, "Speaking of which, Guan's originally confirmed a cooperation with Jiang Group a few days ago. I know that old Master Jiang must want to help us because of Xiu. I came here today specifically to express my gratitude. When the two companies discuss cooperation, if the people below do anything wrong, please forgive Jiang Group." Guan Baoqing naturally knew that he couldn't really offend the Jiang family's reputation on such an occasion, so he only said that the two companies had confirmed a cooperation, but didn't say that the Jiang family had unilaterally cancelled the cooperation, and at the same time gave an excuse for the Jiang family to cancel the cooperation earlier, implying the reason why President Jiang cancelled the previous cooperation was because the people below didn't do a good job. Now that we've cleared things up, let's continue our cooperation. Jiang Yuqing knew Guan Baoqing's intention, which was to completely tie the Guan family and the Jiang family together on such an occasion today. The surrounding guests were all watching. Even if the Jiang group ultimately didn't collaborate with the Guan family, there would always be groups eager to curry favor with the Jiang family, extending olive branches to the Guan family. Jiang Yuqing wouldn't indulge such insolence. He immediately spoke in a deep voice, "Director Guan is joking. The collaboration between Jiang Group and the Guan family was cancelled long ago. As for why, I believe Director Guan's wife and daughter are well aware of the inside story." Guan Baoqing didn't expect Jiang Yuqing to be so impolite. Hearing him mentioned by Xu Qin and Guan Ruerui, he cursed his wife and daughter inwardly, but on the surface, he still feigned a look of panic and surprise, pleading earnestly, "Director Jiang, there must be some misunderstanding. I am truly sincere in hoping to cooperate with Jiang Group." As he spoke, he turned to Jiang Xiu, who had been silent all along. "Xiu, say a word for Dad too." Seeing that he still wanted to involve Xiu, Jiang Yuqing's face darkened slightly, and he stood directly in front of Xiu. "Director Guan, Xiu is my daughter." Bai Shuqin, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but speak up. "Xiu, our family raised you with great difficulty. You should say something." These few sentences completely put Jiang Xiu on the spot. After all, this was the Guan family that raised her. It is said that the kindness of nurturing is greater than the kindness of birth. If Jiang Xiu dared to show even a hint of indifference to the Guan family on such an occasion, her reputation in the circle would be completely ruined in the future. After all, who would like someone who abandons their adoptive parents, as if they were worn-out shoes after recognizing their biological father? Guan Ruerui had been waiting for this moment, but she didn't expect her father's reaction to be even faster than hers. She immediately stepped forward with a pleading look. "Sister, Mom and Dad have always treated you as their own daughter. You can't just ignore us after having your own father." Seeing that the eyes of all the guests in the hall had turned to this side, Bai Shuqin even began to choke up. "I know you've recognized your biological family, but Baocheng and Ruerui and I are also your family. I believe I haven't let you suffer any grievances since you were a child. How have you become like this now?" The Guan family spoke one after another, and the guests who had been listening began to whisper among themselves. The old foxes tacitly remained silent, but some of the younger generation with a stronger sense of justice no longer had the initial good impression of Jiang Xiu, and even couldn't help but condemn her. Even if she's been recognized by the Jiang family, the Guan family raised her after all. Doesn't Miss Jiang think it's wrong to treat her adoptive parents like this? I think the Guan family is also a respectable family. Miss Jiang shouldn't avoid them like the plague. Jiang Yuqing's face was unsightly. He was about to refute when his arm was suddenly pulled. It was Jiang Xiu who pulled him back, walked out on her own, and there wasn't much emotional change on her delicate and refined face. She just glanced faintly at the few people who had just condemned her, and then her almond eyes turned slightly to the Guan family. Suddenly, she started taking off the sleeve on her right hand without saying a word. Everyone was puzzled, and then they saw Jiang Xiu take off her sleeves and raise her fair and delicate arm. There was a clear scar on her smooth, white upper arm. Jiang Xiu looked at Bai Shuqin and said coldly, "When I was 7 years old, Guan Ruerui accidentally fell into the water. When Mrs. Guan arrived, she saw that I was standing safely on the shore, so she pushed me into the water. Because your daughter suffered, I should also suffer a share. This scar was left when I was pushed into the water and scraped my arm on the rocks on the shore. You should remember this. Hearing this, the Jiang family almost immediately glared at Bai Shuqin. The guests in the hall also looked incredulous and didn't even understand the logic. Bai Shuqin's eyes flickered slightly, but she pretended to be calm. That was you who accidentally fell down. How can you say I pushed you? Jiang Shushu was not flustered and continued. When I was 10 years old, Guan Ruerue was injured and hospitalized and needed a blood transfusion. The hospital clearly had enough blood in stock, but you pulled the nurse and insisted that she draw my blood for Guan Ruerue, saying that because we were sisters, she would recover faster with my blood. The guests. What kind of bizarre logic is this? Even elementary school students know that blood transfusions only need to be of the same blood type. Everyone felt that this Mrs. Guan might have some common-sense cognitive impairment. Jiang Yuqing was already extremely angry. After all, these things would not be known even if investigated. But Jiang Shushu's next sentence stunned everyone on the spot. When I was a child, I didn't understand why Guan Ruerue always had bad luck, and you would make me experience the same bad luck, or ask me to take care of her closely. Later I learned that because Guan Ruerue was born with a weak life and brought her own disasters, you raised me only because you valued my life and wanted to use my life to ward off disasters for Guan Ruerue. Chapter 33. It's not too much to take half of the family property as thanks. The moment Bai Shuqin and Guan Baoqing heard Jiang Shushu say the words ward off disasters, their faces changed drastically. Bai Shuqin's pupils even shook violently, subconsciously wanting to ask how she knew. However, her lips moved, and just as she was about to speak, she suddenly realized what occasion this was, noticed the inquiring gazes of the people around her, and quickly changed her expression, showing Jiang Shushu a confused and incredulous expression. Shushu, where did you hear such things? How can you believe such superstitious words? She then looked sad. I know you are the eldest daughter of the Jiang family now, and your status is high. I understand if you don't want to recognize us, but you don't have to say such absurd reasons. It really breaks my heart. Jiang Shushu looked at Bai Shuqin with cold eyes, but knew that if there was no result today, the Guan family would continue to pester her in the future. She had finally left the Guan family, and she really couldn't be bothered to entangle with this family again and again. With a thought, Jiang Shushu was about to take action, but she heard a loud voice outside the door. I believe Miss Jiang. Everyone turned their heads and saw that it was Song Yongming and his wife. They were holding gift boxes and walked directly through the crowd to Jiang Shushu's side. Mrs. Song glared at Bai Shuqin. Miss Jiang is definitely not the kind of person who forgets her roots after climbing high. Since she said that your Guan family adopted her to change her fate, then you must have done it. Since you did it, don't pretend to say such things here. Do you think everyone present is a fool? The fools. Caught in the crossfire. Most of the guests invited by the Jiang family today were close friends. Everyone was very familiar with the Song family. Mrs. Song was well known in the circle for her kindness and cultivation. No one expected her to be so sharp. And all for the sake of this newly recognized eldest Miss Jiang. Could it be that the two of them knew each other before? Not to mention the guests, the Jiang family was equally puzzled, but they intuitively felt that the attitude of Song Yongming and his wife was related to their hurried visit last night. They didn't know what Jiang Shushu had done. Jiang Shushu was also a little surprised by Mrs. Song's straightforward defense. No matter the reason, she remembered her kindness. Bai Shuqin, who was on the other side, was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Song Yongming and his wife, and was dissatisfied. She wanted to continue arguing. Jiang Shushu had already been paying attention to the movements on her side. Before she could speak, her fingers, which were hanging by her side, suddenly and swiftly drew a true word talisman in the void. Then, with a sweep of her palm, the talisman quietly struck Bai Shuqin. Bai Shuqin was completely unaware. She opened her mouth, and what came out was, what if I did do something? My Ruerue has a bad fate. The master said she needed someone with a good fate to ward off misfortune for her to change her fate. She has a good fate. What's wrong with me using her life to suppress my Ruerues? As soon as she said this, the faces of the guests present, including Guan Baoqing next to her, suddenly changed. Guan Ruerue couldn't help but cry out in a sharp voice, Mom. Bai Shuqin belatedly realized what she had said and hurriedly reached out to cover her mouth, but the next second, the words seemed to spill out uncontrollably. Don't think you're so great just because you're Miss Jiang now. In my house, you're just a tool for transferring fate to my Ruerue. The master said that as long as my Ruerue keeps absorbing your good fortune, when you both pass 18, your fates can be completely switched. Otherwise, do you think I would have let you leave so easily to find your biological parents? What did you say? The moment Jiang Hui heard this, his face instantly turned as cold as ice. Even the faces of the Jiangsu brothers next to him turned gloomy. Although they didn't like Jiang Xiuxiu, she was still a member of the Jiang family. They could make trouble within their own family, but if outsiders dared to bully the Jiang family like this, it meant they didn't respect the Jiang family. The Guan family was simply going too far. The surrounding guests felt even more incredulous. They had originally thought that what Miss Jiang had said earlier was absurd, but they never expected that what she said was true. In this way, the absurd and illogical things that Jiang Xiuxiu had said earlier suddenly had an explanation. They didn't think that there really was such a thing as changing fates, but they felt that the Guan family was so superstitious that it was a bit strange. Guan Baocheng also realized that something was wrong at this time. He hurriedly stepped forward to pull Bai Shuqin away, his face frighteningly gloomy, but he said, "Shuqin, are you having another episode? You're just saying these nonsense things." He apologized to everyone. "My wife has a mild mental illness and is prone to episodes when her emotions fluctuate too much. I'll take her back today." Guan Baocheng explained away Bai Shuqin's abnormal self-exposure as hysteria in a few words and was about to leave with her. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to move, Jiang Su and Jiang Han, the younger members of the Jiang family, had already stepped forward together to block their way. Jiang Hui sneered and said in a cool tone, "Why is President Guan in such a hurry to leave? It makes you look too guilty." He already knew Xiuxiu's abilities. The moment he realized that Bai Shuqin was acting strangely, he guessed that this was probably Xiuxiu's private doing, so he naturally wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. Their Jiang family would cooperate with Xiuxiu today to completely tear off the Guan family's mask of hypocrisy. Jiang Xiuxiu knew very well the power of the truth talisman she drew. Seeing Jiang Su and the others stopping the woman, she directly asked Bai Shuqin, "Mrs. Guan, do you really have mental hysteria?" "I don't have it," Bai Shuqin blurted out without thinking. At this time, she already had an expression of almost crying, but the words in her mouth were still extremely honest. "My husband just doesn't want me to tell the truth. He's just like this. Sometimes he's too cautious when doing things. He's not as decisive as us women." Guan Baocheng's face turned black immediately. Wasn't it enough that she exposed Jiang Xiuxiu's matter? And now she's exposing him? Moreover, this woman actually thought of him like this? As early as when Jiang Yuqing heard that the Guan family was actually using Xiuxiu as a tool to ward off misfortune for their daughter, his face was full of suppressed anger. He stepped forward and questioned in a cold voice, "What else have you done to my daughter? What could I do to her? It's just that she always can't recognize her own status. When she was a child, she brought back an injured bird and said she wanted to raise it. She's just an adopted daughter, a freeloader. What qualifications did she have to raise pets? I smashed it to death in front of her. She's been a troublemaker since she was a child. When she was little, she even dared to snatch toys from Ruerue. I locked her in the attic and starved her for 2 days, and she became obedient after coming out." The Jiang family's faces were extremely ugly as they listened, and the surrounding guests were even more sympathetic. They thought that although the Jiang family's eldest lady had been living outside since she was a child, she was at least adopted by a wealthy family, and her life should be good. They didn't expect her to encounter such a black-hearted family. Regarding the gazes around her, Jiang Xiuxiu remained unmoved. Her eyes were calm as she continued to look at Bai Shuqin and asked her, "What did you want to do today?" Bai Shuqin didn't even think. "Of course we came to ask for benefits. We raised you for so long. Now that you've become the Jiang family's eldest lady, shouldn't you repay us? The Jiang family has such a big fortune. Isn't it reasonable to take out half of it to thank our Guan family?" The moment the words fell, the guests present gasped. This Guan family, their appetite is too big. Opening their mouths and asking for half of the Jiang family's fortune. Aren't they afraid of bursting themselves? Chapter 34. From now on, I no longer owe the Guan family. Now that the words had been spoken to this extent, who didn't understand what kind of family the Guan family was? The original sympathy and enthusiasm instantly turned into contempt and disdain. Guan Baoqing and Guan Ruerwei were about to vomit blood. They didn't know what madness their wife-mother had suddenly gone into. Guan Ruerwei's tears fell for a moment, and she was still trying to explain. It's not like this. My mother is talking nonsense. We didn't treat sister like that. However, before she could finish speaking, there was a sneer from the crowd. It was the girl in the black dress who had mocked her for thinking of herself as a princess at the beginning. All right, the Guan family's calculations can be heard all the way in the capital, and you're still pretending here? A few more bursts of laughter erupted, filled with mockery and disdain. Guan Ruerwei had never suffered such humiliation in her life. She ignored Bai Shuqin and Guan Baoqing, covered her face, pushed through the crowd and ran out. Unexpectedly, she had only taken a few steps when she suddenly bumped into someone. Due to the force of the impact, Guan Ruerwei stumbled and fell to the ground. She subconsciously looked up and saw a tall and slender figure standing against the light, like a pine or bamboo, emanating a cold aura. When she clearly saw the other person's face, Guan Ruerwei felt her heart skip several beats. His handsome features were like carvings, even more aloof and domineering than Jiang Huai's pretty boy looks. When those dark eyes coldly glanced at her, it felt as if they could suck her in. Guan Ruerwei just sat there on the ground, stunned, while she simultaneously heard hushed whispers around her. Isn't that young Master Chu? It's him, right? His aura is so intimidating. Didn't they say young Master Chu hates attending these kinds of events the most? Why did he come? Oh no, is there anything wrong with the dress I'm wearing today? Young Master Chu hates people who dress gaudily. I hope he doesn't see me. Only then did Guan Ruerwei realize that the person in front of her was Chu Beihe, the young master of the Chu family, one of the 4 major families in Hai City. Rumor had it that the Chu family's young master was mysterious and disliked taking photos. There was very little information about him on social media. This was the first time Guan Ruerwei had seen him in person, and she felt that Pei Yuanqing couldn't even compare to a piece of Chu Beihe's sleeve. She also felt that the scene in front of her was like the moment the male and female leads met in an idol drama. In the crowded banquet hall, she was as weak and helpless as a little white rabbit, while he was tall and mighty, standing in front of her against the light, as if he would bend down at any moment and carry her away in his arms. Imagining such a scene, Guan Ruerwei instantly forgot her embarrassment and shame, and instead looked at him shyly and helplessly. Seeing him finally raise his hand, Guan Ruerwei's heart trembled, and she immediately reached out to him. Chu Beihe looked at that hand and frowned deeply. If it weren't for the inappropriate occasion, he would have even wanted to take off the suit jacket that she had brushed against. Suppressing his discomfort, he had just raised his hand to take out a handkerchief to wipe the scented suit when he saw her reach out to him. Did she break her leg from the fall? And she wanted him to help her up? A pair of deep black eyes coldly swept over the diamond-studded manicure on her hand. Chu Beihe frowned even deeper, turned to look at the waiter waiting nearby, and without the slightest gentlemanly awareness, he directly said, "Aren't you going to help her up?" The waiter was stunned at first, but then realized and hurried forward. 2 waiters, one on each side, directly lifted Guan Ruerwei, who was still sitting on the ground waiting for a domineering CEO Princess Carrie. Guan Ruerwei. This plot is wrong. Lu Xueshi, who had been watching from the sidelines, twitched her eyes slightly, obviously not expecting Chu Beihe to come over in person. But she calmed down again when she thought about the relationship between Chu Beihe and Jiang Huai. It must be for Jiang Huai's sake that Chu Beijiao came. Sure enough, Chu Beijiao bypassed the restrained Guan Ruerwei and walked up to Jiang Xuxiu. He said concisely, "Congratulations, Miss Jiang. I'm late." Although it was only a few words, the title Miss Jiang publicly acknowledged Jiang Xuxiu's identity as the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. Chu Beijiao represents the Chu family. With his statement, no matter what other ideas the guests might have about this eldest daughter of the Jiang family, the top social circles of Heiress must acknowledge Jiang Xuxiu's identity from tonight onward. Jiang Xuxiu looked at the shining figure and smiled slightly. Not late at all. Your arrival is perfect, young Master Chu. As she spoke, she turned back to Guan Baocheng, her smile fading slightly, her voice soft. The Guan family raised me for 18 years, totaling no more than 5 million. Before this, I already transferred the 5 million in upbringing expenses to your account. Guan Baocheng's eyes turned cold, while the guests nearby looked on in disbelief. 5 million to raise a child might be acceptable for ordinary families. But in the eyes of this group, 5 million was hardly anything. Given the Guan family's wealth, spending only 5 million on raising a child showed how poorly they had treated her over the years. For a moment, their gazes towards Guan Baocheng were filled with contempt. Jiang Xushu continued, her almond eyes fixed on Guan Baocheng, her voice calm and composed. Moreover, I died once in place of Guan Ruerue, repaying the debt of gratitude. From now on, I owe the Guan family nothing. Guan Baocheng's pupils shrank violently, his facial muscles twitched slightly, and he could no longer maintain his false pretense. Jiang Yuqing's heart ached. He felt that his daughter had suffered greatly in the Guan family. Only now, following Jiang Xushu's words, did he declare in a cold voice, "From today on, my Jiang family's child will have no further relations with the Guan family. Considering that you raised Xushu, the Jiang family will not do anything to the Guan family. But if the Guan family dares to flaunt the Jiang family's name outside in the future, don't blame the Jiang family for taking action." After speaking, he coldly ordered, "Butler, see the guests out." Guan Baocheng and Bai Shuqin were almost embarrassedly escorted out. As they passed in front of Jiang Xushu, they heard her say in a voice only the three of them could hear, "I forgot to tell you, your spell to switch fates was not successful at all." Bai Shuqin suddenly turned her head, looking at her with a twisted and incredulous expression, her eyes filled with disbelief. Jiang Xushu didn't care whether she believed it or not. She would believe it soon enough. Guan Ruerue's previous tribulation will soon find her again. If you want to save her, have Guan Ruerue bring her grandmother's bracelet and come to me in person. Guan Baocheng looked at Jiang Xushu with cold eyes, while Bai Shuqin's eyes were filled with venom. However, before the two could react, the butler had already forcefully escorted them out. The banquet continued. Grandpa Jiang personally led Jiang Xushu to greet several elders. When she returned, she was surprised to see that Chu Beijiao had not yet left. To be precise, his presence tonight had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Jiang Xushuan could tell that this young Master Chu wasn't one to enjoy such banquets. So curious, she asked directly. Chu Beiha seemed to have known she would ask. His phoenix eyes swept coldly over Jiang Huai on the other side. His voice calm and unhurried as he simply said, "He said I should take responsibility for you." Jiang Xushuan had just picked up a glass of champagne from the side when she heard this. Her hand jerked violently, almost spilling it all over him. Turning her head, her almond eyes widened slightly, looking at him in disbelief, as if to ask, "Take responsibility for what? What responsibility do I have that you need to take on?" Chapter 35. You have bad lousy love interest. Chu Beiha looked at Jiang Xushuan's shocked expression without changing his own, simply saying, "It was I who revealed your identity to the Song family, which led them to question the Jiang family, and indirectly caused you to run away from home. Therefore, he needed to take responsibility." Jiang Xushuan. Just now, she was about to think he had discovered that she had taken 2 bits of his golden light. So it was just this big boss Chu. Was he really so easily fooled? He actually believed such an obviously flimsy excuse? Of course, Chu Beiha knew that this was just Jiang Huai's excuse to get him to come and support her. But even if it was an excuse, as long as it could convince him, it wasn't a deception. Yesterday, although she hadn't explicitly asked him to keep her identity a secret, he did tell the other party that she was the Jiang family's daughter without her consent. For this reason alone, Chu Beiha would not shirk his responsibility. Big Boss Chu's obsessive-compulsive disorder also included taking things seriously. Jiang Xushuan originally wanted to say that he didn't need to take responsibility, but her gaze inadvertently fell on his left arm. She had seen very clearly just now that the moment Guan Ruerue accidentally bumped into the big shot's arm, the black aura originally entwined around her was noticeably weakened by the golden light on Chu Beiha's body. That golden light was like a flame, able to instantly dissipate all the yin and evil that approached him. Jiang Shushuan wanted it a little. Thinking of this, she didn't bother with polite words about him not needing to take responsibility. Then, if I have problems in the future, can I still bother you? No. Jiang Shushuan. Wasn't he supposed to be taking responsibility? As if seeing the doubt in her eyes, Chu Beiha rarely explained. You have already moved back to the Jiang family, so my responsibility was fulfilled just now. Jiang Shushuan. So the big shot's responsibility was a one-time thing. Miscalculated. As expected, Chu Beiha didn't like this kind of occasion, just like the rumor said, and quickly excused himself to leave after talking to Jiang Shushuan. Jiang Shushuan thought that she needed to put in a little more effort to get close to this big shot. But fortunately, she wasn't in a hurry. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, a light, melodious female voice suddenly came from behind her. Young Master Chu is known in the circle as being difficult to approach. You'll regret it if you put your mind on him. Jiang Shushuan turned her head and saw that the person who came was the same girl who had mocked Guan Ruerue earlier. The girl was about the same age as her, with very bright and striking features. Her black and shiny hair was styled up, revealing a beautiful swan-like neck. She looked at Jiang Shushu with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, but there was no malice in her words. Jiang Shushu asked her, "Do you like Chu Beiha?" Usually, the ones who actively warn other women to stay away from a certain man are his admirers. Unexpectedly, upon hearing Jiang Shushu's words, the girl looked as if she had heard a terrifying ghost story, her expression clearly horrified. I must be tired of living if I liked that big demon king. Jiang Shushu raised an eyebrow. This was the second time she had heard someone call him that. It seemed this nickname wasn't unique to Jiang Huai. It was universally acknowledged. Thank you for the advice, I'll approach him as I see fit. The implication was, thank you for the reminder, but I choose to ignore it. Li Qingzi gave Jiang Shushu a strange look, then waved her hand. Forget it, do as you please. I only advised you because you so decisively cut ties with your adoptive parents just now, and I thought you were still somewhat clear-headed. As she spoke, she reached out her hand, a smile playing on her lips. Li Qingzi, Li's real estate is my family's. Jiang Shushu never intentionally put on an unapproachable front to people who didn't have malice towards her, especially since the girl in front of her had a generous demeanor and a refreshing way of speaking. She quite liked her. Reaching out to grasp the hand extended to her, Jiang Shushu's gaze fell on the cluster of dark pink between the girl's eyebrows. She smiled slightly and said, "You'll have some bad romantic luck recently. Be careful of those who make you feel indebted to them." Jiang Shushu was never stingy with giving a reminder to someone she felt good about. Li Qingzi. Li Qingzi didn't expect her to change the subject so abruptly. Do you really believe in this stuff? She had thought she was just trying to expose the Guan family's ugly intentions. Jiang Shushu said, I don't just believe, I also study it. If you want to ward off petty people, you can also come to me. Li Qingzi. This Miss Jiang seemed a little strange. Meanwhile, at the Guan residence, the Guan family of 3 returned home almost in silence. Along the way, even when there was no one else around, Bai Shuqin tightly covered her mouth, afraid that she would once again uncontrollably say what was on her mind. Guan Qishan had a dinner party tonight and didn't go to the Jiang family. He thought his family wouldn't be back so soon, but as soon as he entered the house, Guan Baoqing and the others followed him in. As soon as he entered, he saw Guan Baoqing with a grim face, his sister with red eyes who had obviously been crying, and his mother, who was inexplicably covering her mouth as she entered. Dad, Mom, what's? Before he could even ask, Guan Baoqing, who had just stepped into the house, turned around and suddenly slapped Bai Shuqin hard across the face. Bai Shuqin was caught off guard and was thrown directly to the ground. Guan Ruerue, who had been feeling aggrieved, was stunned, and Guan Qishan's face changed drastically as he rushed forward. Dad, what are you doing? Guan Baoqing ignored his son's obstruction and continued to threaten to kick Bai Shuqin. His face was filled with a ferocity that was rarely seen. It's all because of you always messing things up, that my reputation, built over years, is completely ruined. You've made the entire Guan family a laughingstock in the circle. I wish I could strangle you right now. Guan Qixin's expression changed drastically upon hearing this. He couldn't understand why his usually gentle father would suddenly become like this. Weren't they supposed to be attending the Jiang family's dinner tonight to find an opportunity to salvage their cooperation? How had they become a laughingstock in the circle? Guan Ruerue, who was standing to the side, was also startled to see her usually loving father looking like this, and she whimpered in distress. Dad, don't be like this, you're scaring me. It would have been better if she hadn't spoken, because as soon as she did, Guan Baoqing's anger immediately turned towards her. I haven't settled accounts with you yet. You and your mother clearly knew that Guan Xiuxiu was the Jiang family's eldest daughter, but you kept it from me all along. I thought you were genuinely helping me secure cooperation with the Jiang family, but it turns out you two are the culprits. Guan Baoqing's roar made Guan Ruerue tremble all over. Bai Shuqin, who was standing to the side, struggled to get up and embrace Guan Ruerue. She didn't bother covering her mouth anymore and started cursing. Guan Baoqing, how can you yell at Ruerue like that? She's your own daughter. You're useless yourself and you're blaming us? Why didn't you say anything earlier? You acted like a grandson outside, only daring to vent your anger on us when you got home. Coward. Guan Qixin was shocked by these words. Could his mom really say such things? Chapter 36. You might as well hit me. What did you say? Guan Baoqing was about to explode with anger when he heard Bai Shuqin's words, and he almost couldn't catch his breath. His voice changed because of his extreme anger, and his eyes were filled with frightening rage. Bai Shuqin immediately shrank back, subconsciously covering her mouth again, with a painful expression. Husband, no, that's not what I meant. She wanted to explain, but what came out of her mouth was, I said you're useless. Only useless men yell at their family members. If you're so capable, why didn't you lash out at that BTCH Guan Xiuxiu earlier? Isn't it because you see that she's become the Jiang family's eldest daughter, and you don't dare to fall out with her? It's a pity that she doesn't think highly of you at all, and can't wait to kick you away. Mom. Guan Qixin was going crazy. When had his mom ever spoken to his dad like this? Wasn't it always whatever his dad said? Had she gone crazy after going out this time? Bai Shuqin also felt like she was going crazy. Ever since she was at the Jiang family, she had been uncontrollably wanting to blurt out the truth. Not just the truth, but also the words that she had hidden deep in her heart. Looking at Guan Baoqing's face, which was almost as purple as a pig's liver, Bai Shuqin felt like she was done for. What the others didn't know was that, just now, the dark shadow that had been clinging to Guan Ruerue was constantly extending wisps of black gas. These black gases seeped into Guan Baoqing's body little by little, silently, but making Guan Baoqing's face even more terrifying. He stared at Bai Shuqin with such intensity, pointing at her, his fingers trembling. Yi. He was so angry he couldn't speak, but a surge of anger was welling up inside him, making him clamor for release. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the golf clubs placed at the entrance. He immediately stepped forward and pulled out one of the clubs without a word. Guan Qixin's face changed instantly upon seeing his actions, and Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue's faces also turned pale. Before Guan Qixin could rush over to stop him, Guan Baoqing had already swung the club out fiercely. Crash! The ornaments displayed at the entrance were instantly swept to the ground and shattered by his club. Bai Shuqin couldn't help but scream. Ah! Help! Guan Ruerue also started crying. Dad, we know we were wrong. Husband, I know I was wrong too, please calm down. The scene was chaotic, but Guan Baoqing was still frantically waving the golf club in his hand. Fortunately, he didn't actually chase after Bai Shuqin to hit her. Instead, he smashed all the vases and ornaments displayed in the entrance and living room. Bai Shuqin's heart ached as she watched. Several of the things being smashed were antiques, worth nearly 10 million yuan combined. Bai Shuqin was heartbroken. She blurted out, "You might as well hit me, Hua. Guan Qixin. This family is crazy." 2 days after the Jiang family's banquet, Jiang Xiuxiu finally arranged a time to visit Madame Song. After packing her things and going downstairs, she saw the 3 Jiang brothers, Jiang Su, Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng, being forced to do push-ups in the garden. In front of them, Jiang Huai was sitting elegantly in a wicker chair, with snacks and floral tea beside him, looking like he was leisurely enjoying afternoon tea. Jiang Xuxu raised her eyebrows slightly at the sight. What's this? It's nothing. Grandpa said they've been lacking exercise lately, so he's having them work out during the summer vacation. Jiang Huai said with a smile, and added, knowing you're going out, the car is ready for you. Jiang Xuxu nodded. In just a few days, she had almost gotten used to Jiang Huai's attentiveness. Ignoring the three brothers who were still struggling, Jiang Xuxu said goodbye to Jiang Huai and went out on her own. Jiang Huai smiled and watched her leave before turning back to the three, the smile on his lips becoming even gentler. Hang in there. Do at least 100 today. If you can't hold on in the middle and collapse, all three of you will have to start over from zero together. As soon as he said this, the three almost instantly fell apart, crying out, Big brother, we really know we were wrong. We haven't troubled Jiang Xuxu these past 2 days. We've been very good. Brother Jiang Huai, you can't just forget about your brothers once you have a sister. We're your family too. To the three of them, Jiang Huai remained unmoved, still with that noble and elegant smile. Well, it only counts as family after you've done 100. If you don't finish them today, your games and figurines will still be under my temporary care. The three of them immediately let out another wail. Ever since the last banquet, the family had been treating Jiang Xuxu like an ancestor. The reason was that Song Yongming and his wife had later specifically expressed their gratitude to Grandpa Jiang at the banquet, because Jiang Xuxu had saved their daughter's life. They also couldn't help but marvel. Xuxu is truly capable. Our family is really grateful to her. At such a young age, not only is she so amazing, but she can also earn money to pay off the Guan family's support fees. It's truly remarkable. Upon hearing this, the Jiang family felt their foreheads throb. It was then that they realized that Jiang Xuxu was so unpopular in the Guan family that it was impossible for the Guan family to give her so much pocket money. So where did that 5 million come from? Now reminded by Song Yongming, they finally knew. She earned it herself. The Jiang family's first reaction was not to think that Xuxu was capable, but to feel ashamed. Even Jiang Su looked complicated. He had previously thought that Jiang Xuxu's mystical and strange pursuits were embarrassing, but she was doing it entirely to earn money. At the same time, he didn't understand why Jiang Xuxu bothered since she had already returned to the Jiang family. It was just 5 million in support fees. She could have just asked her uncle directly, but she actually went to the trouble of earning the money herself to pay it back. That night, Jiang Yuqing directly transferred 10 million to Jiang Xuxu. 5 million was to pay off the Guan family, and the other 5 million was for her pocket money. Jiang Xuxu didn't know what to say. Last time, she had just transferred 1.5 million out, and Jiang Huai had turned around and transferred double the pocket money to her. This time, she had just paid back 5 million, and the money was doubled and sent back to her. It was the first time Jiang Xuxu had experienced this feeling of never lacking money. But she wouldn't be pretentious and insist on returning the money that had entered her pocket. With this money, she could just take pictures of what she wanted before. While flipping through her phone to find news of a certain auction, the car had already stopped in front of the Song family's door. Song Yongming and his wife had been waiting at home early, and they greeted her directly as soon as she got out of the car. Master Jiang, you're here. Although Mrs. Song directly called her Xuxu when she was at the Jiang family to show closeness, she still insisted on calling her Master Jiang in private. The former was to support her, but the latter was purely respect. Thinking that her Xiaolier could finally return to normal today, Mrs. Song was so excited that she didn't sleep all night. Not only her, Song Yongming and Song Yuli also stayed up all night. For today, they specially pushed aside all the work of the company, just to witness the moment when Xiaolier recovered. Jiang Xuxu met the Song family's eager gaze, only smiled reassuringly, and without exchanging pleasantries, she directly took out a paper bag from her personal backpack. The Song family only saw in the paper bag a few strands of hair wrapped in yellow talismans. That's the hair of the person who swapped out their Xiaolier for a fool. The Song family's eyes instantly seemed to blaze with fire. Jiang Xuxu looked at them and, after a moment's thought, said, "Before we begin, there's something I need to confess to you." Chapter 37. Who told you I like you? The Song family rarely saw Jiang Xuxu looking so solemn, and their hearts couldn't help but rise. thinking there might be some other risk involved. But then they heard Jiang Zhuxiu say, "The person who swapped out Xylier's intellect back then was an old nanny who worked for the Jiang family year-round. She once helped an evil sorcerer, and as a reward, the sorcerer offered to help her swap the intellect of her foolish son. So she set her sights on Xylier, who happened to be visiting the Jiang family. These things were naturally confessed by Aunt Wu later. Jiang Zhuxiu didn't want to hide it from the Song family. Hearing this truth, the Song family's expressions became complicated. It would be a lie to say they didn't harbor resentment towards the Jiang family. After all, it was an old nanny they hired, and who would have thought that an old nanny in their home would have such a vicious mind? Their Xylier was just visiting, but she was targeted and lived like a child for 8 years. And they, all these years, were completely unaware, only thinking that Xylier's brain was damaged because she fell from a horse. They resented the Jiang family for not being able to recognize people, but it was also Jiang Zhuxiu, a member of the Jiang family, who discovered the problem and took the initiative to help them. Song Yongming took a deep breath, and after a long while sighed. As long as Xylier can return to normal, let it be. The two families had some friendship after all. And if they really turned against each other because of this, it would be difficult for Master Jiang. Right now, they just wanted Xylier to get better. The Song family's magnanimity made Jiang Zhuxiu feel a rare liking for this family. She smiled slightly and simply said, "Don't worry, she will get better." Jiang Zhuxiu said, going upstairs, taking Xylier's hair on the spot, and setting up a small reincarnation array in the light of the midday sun. Compared to the last time when she single-handedly used flying talismans to shock everyone, this array seemed very simple and unadorned. They only watched her murmur a few Taoist incantations, then burned the hair wrapped in the yellow talisman, and then got up and said to them, "Okay." The Song family hadn't reacted yet, especially Song Yuli, who had heard Mrs. Song vividly describe Master Jiang's spellcasting, and thought he could witness it today. But that's it? How could he know that the last time was entirely to convince the Song family, especially the old Madame Song? So Jiang Zhuxiu put on a bit of a show. Now that the Song family had long believed in her abilities, Jiang Zhuxiu naturally didn't bother to continue performing. The most advanced spells often only required the simplest methods. Fortunately, the Song family was concerned about Xylier's condition and didn't ask about the process, subconsciously looking at their own Xylier with nervous expressions. Then she saw that Xyalier's eyes seemed clearer than before. Her beautiful big eyes swept over a few people, and then landed on Jiang Zhuxiu. After a while, she asked curiously, "Little dog sister, are we not playing the treasure hunt game today?" The Song family's hearts almost sank. It's still the same as before. Madame Song looked at Jiang Zhuxiu anxiously. "Master Jiang, did the ritual fail? Why doesn't Xylier seem any better?" Faced with the Song family's questions, Jiang Zhuxiu remained calm. "She is already better." Song Yongming frowned, looking at his little daughter, who was still full of innocence, and couldn't see that she was better at all. Knowing the Song family's doubts, Jiang Zhuxiu explained, "When her intelligence was taken away, she was 8 years old, so she is 8 years old now. The returned intelligence will not make her have the intelligence of a 16-year-old overnight, but from today onwards, she will grow up slowly like a normal child. It's just that she may mature 8 years later than her peers. It may seem abrupt now, but as time goes by, the gap will gradually narrow until she truly grows into an adult." The Song family finally understood when they heard this. Yes, their Xylier has been a child for the past 8 years, and even if she recovers, she can't suddenly become a 16-year-old girl. If she could really grow up overnight, they would suspect that someone had replaced her core. Madame Song understood this and immediately felt relieved. Looking at Xyalier's still innocent eyebrows, her eyes contained a little tear. "It's good, she just had a longer childhood than others. Our Song family's little princess is not in a hurry to grow up." Seeing that the Song family had accepted it, Jiang Zhuxiu took out a jade pendant from her backpack and hung it around Xyalier's neck herself. "This is a protective jade pendant I made myself, which can block all evil means and protect her future well-being." In the end, Song Yuli was repeatedly targeted because her fate was excellent. Song Yongming saw that the jade pendant Jiang Zhuxiu gave to Xyalier was of superior quality, much better than the one that had been broken before, and immediately transferred another 5 million to Jiang Xishu. It was also considered the reward for this time. Unexpectedly, Jiang Xishu directly returned the money. Someone has already paid for this time. Song Yongming was stunned. Jiang Xishu showed him a payment page, which showed an amount of 10 million. Song Yongming was still sighing about who was so generous when he saw the transferer's remark. Jiang Yuqing. Song Yongming. The Jiang family has a certain responsibility for the matter of changing intelligence. Today's trip is my way of making up for this mistake on behalf of the Jiang family. Jiang Xishu is not only Master Jiang today, but also represents the Jiang family. Hearing this, Song Yongming's grudges against the Jiang family completely disappeared. Leaving the Song family, Jiang Xishu was about to get into the car when she suddenly heard a familiar voice from behind. Xishu? Jiang Xishu turned her head and saw Pei Yuanqing standing not far away, looking at her with restrained surprise and a fake affection in his eyes. I came to see my second uncle, but I didn't expect to see you here. What a coincidence. Pei Yuanqing explained gently. Seeing that she didn't speak, he continued, I saw you at the banquet that night. I wanted to say hello, but I was worried that you would be unhappy to see me. After all, there may be some misunderstandings between us. Jiang Xishu raised her eyebrows. Misunderstanding? Pei Yuanqing saw that she finally spoke, and immediately said, Yes, Rui must have told you that we are dating now, right? But that's not the case. After you had a car accident and unexpectedly found your relatives, Rui told me that your family was a declining family in the mountains. I was worried that your future would be ruined after you were sent away, so I begged her to let Uncle Guan continue to keep you in the Guan family. As a condition, I agreed to be her boyfriend. Jiang Xishu raised her eyebrows even higher. So you did it for me? Pei Yuanqing looked at her bitterly. This is probably a trick of fate. Xishu, do you know? Actually, the person I have always liked is you. I know you have always liked me too. Jiang Xishu originally wanted to see what kind of story this person, who was waiting here on purpose, was going to make up, but she couldn't help but interrupt when she heard this. Pei Yuanqing, who told you that I like you? Chapter 38. This is not how you should treat treasures of the Xianmen. Jiang Xishu remembered that when she left the Guan family, Guan Rui had also triumphantly said that she liked Pei Yuanqing. And now, Pei Yuanqing himself said that she liked him. So who is spreading rumors about her? Pei Yuanqing was stunned when he heard Jiang Xishu's words. The next second, he seemed to be looking at a little girlfriend who was angry with him, and just smiled slightly. It's something everyone knows, no one needs to tell me. I can see it. Pei Yuanqing looked at her and smiled confidently. You were always by my side during that time, following me wherever I went, buying me breakfast and coming to watch my games. Although you didn't say it explicitly, I knew it all. Jiang Xishu's mouth twitched fiercely when she heard this. The only reason I didn't say it explicitly is that I don't like you. As for why I followed you, believe me, you don't want to know the reason. Jiang Xishu denied it too bluntly. Pei Yuanqing was obviously stunned for a moment, but he still insisted that his judgment was correct. Why do you deny your feelings for me? Is it because of Rui? Or does your current family not allow you to be with me? Jiang Xishu was really speechless at this moment. Some people are so narcissistic that they can't hear other people's voices. She has seen it today. Too lazy to continue arguing with him about this kind of question, Jiang Xishu got into the car on her own. Pei Yuanqing gritted his teeth secretly and was thinking about how to keep her when he saw the car window in the back seat suddenly roll down. Pei Yuanqing's expression changed, and he showed a confident and gentle smile to the car again. But Jiang Xishu glanced coldly across his face and only asked, The excuse just now, you must have thought about it for 2 days, right? Was he trying to write an old-school romance drama by forcing her to agree to be with Guan Rui? A hint of obscure embarrassment flashed across Pei Yuanqing's eyes. He wanted to explain, but saw Jiang Xishu had already slowly raised the car window and directly ordered the driver to drive. Pei Yuanqing looked at the car driving away and a trace of shame and anger flashed in his eyes. To him, that wasn't an excuse at all. It was clearly a step he was giving her. He thought he had already kindly offered her a step down, and with her infatuation with him, she should have immediately taken it. With her current status, he would agree even if she wanted him to break up with Guan Ruerue immediately. But she was so ungrateful. Sure enough, things were different now that she had climbed up with the Jiang family. In the car, Jiang Xiuxiu had already thrown Pei Yuancheng to the back of her mind the moment she closed the car window. Hearing the familiar phone notification sound, she opened it and her eyes moved slightly. "Uncle Hai, don't go back to the Jiang family yet, take me somewhere." The driver in the front seat responded and, following the address Jiang Xiuxiu gave, the car drove directly to a development zone in the suburbs. Although it was a development zone, it looked a bit deserted due to unsuccessful investment attraction. Uncle Hai looked at the surrounding environment and was a little worried. "Miss, what are you doing in this kind of place? Why don't I go in with you?" As a driver specially arranged by Jiang Huai, Uncle Hai also had the task of protecting the safety of the eldest lady. "It's okay, just wait for me outside." Jiang Xiuxiu paused and said, "I probably won't be out soon. You can find a place to rest first, or go back directly." Uncle Hai heard this and said seriously, "I'll wait for you outside." Jiang Xiuxiu did not force him when she saw this, and walked into the development zone on her own. Passing by two desolate buildings, Jiang Xiuxiu walked directly into an inconspicuous red brick building in the middle of the park. Entering the small building and going down, passing through a long corridor, the opening of the door revealed a different world. In the basement, the huge space was a luxuriously decorated underground auction house. The auction house was not big, and the number of people in the venue did not exceed 300. A waiter stepped forward and asked respectfully, "Miss, please show your invitation." Jiang Xiuxiu was about to speak when she heard a pleasant male voice coming from another exit. "She is my guest." The waiter's attitude became more respectful when he saw the person coming, manager. The man called the manager had a feminine appearance, giving a kind of androgynous beauty at first glance, and his beautiful fox eyes seemed to always reveal a flirtatious air. He was wearing a delicate dark purple tang suit, and his slightly long hair was casually tied behind his head, and his whole person revealed the mysterious charm of the East. Looking at Jiang Xiuxiu, he just slightly beckoned to her. The action was ambiguous. Jiang Xiuxiu was used to his personality and went to a room behind the auction house with him. The room was decorated in a very antique style, which matched his temperament. A screen divides the room into two sections, one serving as a reception area and the other resembling a display space, showcasing various items soon to be auctioned by the auction house, which differs from typical auction houses dealing in antique artworks. Yijan deals in all sorts of things here. Anything you want, anything he has can be traded. If you want something he doesn't have, he can also find a way to trade for it. "Where's the thing you mentioned?" As soon as she entered the room, Jiang Xiuxiu couldn't wait to ask. Yijan, seeing her eagerness, simply arched his eyes, then turned to rummage through the display area, muttering to himself as he searched. "This isn't it. This one also not. Ah, so that piece of human bone was here. This box. Oh, found it." Yijan walked out holding a long box, looking at her with a sly glint in his fox-like eyes. "I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for. Take a look first." As he spoke, he opened the box. Inside the box was a dry branch. A scorched black peach branch, also known as thunderstruck peach wood, is considered a warding artifact within mystic circles. Good thunderstruck peach wood is hard to find, let alone the millennium thunderstruck wood that Jiang Xiuxiu was looking for. Such a magical artifact with the power of millennium thunder strikes would be treated as a family heirloom in any mystic family, and it's rare that Yijan was actually able to find one. Just by looking at the sparks of lightning emanating from the peach wood, one could tell that it was extraordinary. Too bad. This isn't the branch I'm looking for. Yijan's confident expression cracked slightly, and he glared at her. Do you know how hard it is to find millennium thunderstruck wood? Having one is already good enough. He pushed the item closer to her. Why don't you take a closer look? After all, tree branches all look pretty much the same. Jiang Xiuxiu didn't even look at it and pushed it back to him, her expression serious. I'm sure my branch is different. And I said from the start that I'm not looking for an artifact, but to find the person who owns the artifact. Her master. They initially agreed that she would stay with her until she was 18, but then she suddenly disappeared. No matter how she divined and calculated, She could never capture a trace of her aura. It was as if she had never appeared in this world. Now, apart from starting with the artifacts she used to carry with her to find clues, Jiang Susu had no other way to find her master. Seeing her firm attitude, Jiang clicked his tongue, and the thunderstruck wood he had just cherished was casually thrown backward. Tisk, another wasted effort. Jiang Susu felt a pang of heartache when she heard the thud of the box hitting the table. Although it wasn't the branch she was looking for, it was still a genuine Millennium Thunderstruck wood. This isn't how you should treat a mystic treasure. Apologize to it quickly. Chapter 39. Guan Ruirui's Nightmare. The Guan family. After Guan Baoqing frantically smashed nearly $10 million worth of his own antiques that night, he came to his senses and felt awful. Added to the fact that Jiang Yuqing publicly declared at the banquet that he had no further relationship with the Guan family. Several companies that had cooperated with the Guan family had terminated their partnerships in the past 2 days. Guan Baoqing fell ill immediately. Bai Shuqin was even earlier. She fell ill the night she returned. With 2 people in the Guan family falling ill at once, Guan Qishan could only temporarily take over the company's affairs, being so busy that he was rushed off his feet. As a result, not long after leaving the company yesterday, he was unexpectedly involved in a car accident on the road and fractured his arm. Compared to the 3, Guan Ruirui's situation was worse. She had been having the same nightmare for 2 consecutive days. The dark sky, the abandoned teaching building rooftop, the girl's lower body almost soaked in blood, looking at her with desperate and pleading eyes. Finally, the rooftop door that she hurriedly closed. The girl's mournful cry seemed to still echo in her ears. "Save me, please save me." The voice seemed to be right next to her ear. Guan Ruirui suddenly opened her eyes and was shocked to find the blood-soaked girl sitting by her bed. Her eyes filled with bloody tears, staring at herself intently. "Ah!" Guan Ruirui's scream almost echoed throughout the Guan family's villa in the middle of the night. Before long, the door was opened, and Bai Shuqin dragged her sick body and walked over quickly, looking somewhat weak. Ruirui, what's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" Guan Ruirui threw herself into Bai Shuqin's arms and burst into tears. Bai Shuqin comforted her, her voice full of heartache. "Ruirui, don't be afraid. Tell Mom, did you have a nightmare?" Guan Ruirui still hugged Bai Shuqin, and could only nod with a whimper. Then Bai Shuqin pulled her slightly away from her arms, her voice still gentle. "Then, did you dream about me?" The moment Guan Ruirui looked up, Bai Shuqin's appearance had turned into that of a pale girl with bloody tears in her eyes. "Ah!" The scream echoed throughout the villa again. Immediately afterward, Guan Baoqing came in, and Guan Ruirui started sobbing again. And then Guan Baoqing also turned into the girl's appearance. Guan Ruirui was almost going crazy. For 2 consecutive days, she had such dreams within dreams, and Guan Ruirui's spirit collapsed all at once, and she couldn't even tell whether she was in a dream or reality. So much so that when she saw Bai Shuqin in her conscious state, she subconsciously picked up something and threw it at her. Not daring to stay at home any longer, Guan Ruirui changed her clothes and hurriedly went out. Unseen to her, the villa behind her seemed to be shrouded in a dark cloud. The summer day was sunny, but not a single ray of light shone into the Guan family's home. And as Guan Ruirui left, wisps of black energy leaked out from the black shadow entwined behind her, tainting the places she went. Meanwhile, Pei Yuancheng, having just been rebuffed by Jiang Chuxiu, returned home with a dark face. But as soon as he got out of the car, he saw a figure suddenly rushing towards him. With red eyes, drooping eye bags, and a yellow complexion, looking like an evil ghost. At that moment, Pei Yuancheng really thought he was seeing a ghost in broad daylight, and subconsciously reached out to push the person away, until he heard a familiar and aggrieved cry. "Brother Pei." Pei Yuancheng realized that the person was actually Guan Ruirui. He looked at the person in front of him, who looked like she hadn't slept for 2 days and 2 nights, and whose condition was so bad that she couldn't be recognized as the Guan family's little princess that she was, and his lips twitched. "Why do you look like this?" Guan Ruirui had been mentally devastated these 2 days, and when she heard this, she immediately started sobbing aggrievedly. While crying, she threw herself into Pei Yuancheng's arms. "Brother Pei, I've been having nightmares these past 2 days. I can't take it anymore, sob sob sob." Pei Yuanqing looked at Guan Ruerue in his arms with some impatience. Before he reunited with Jiang Xiuxiu, he felt he had made the most correct choice. But seeing Jiang Xiuxiu again, he found that the Guan Ruerue in front of him was truly inferior to her in every way. Not as good-looking as her, not as good-tempered as her, and now even her family background was inferior to her. Pei Yuanqing was considering whether he should completely give up Guan Ruerue and go all in. Originally, he thought that with his position in Jiang Xiuxiu's heart, as long as he gave her a chance, she would happily become his girlfriend. But Jiang Xiuxiu's attitude today made him understand that he was overthinking things. Just talking might not make Xiuxiu believe him. He had to take practical actions. The first thing was to draw a clear line with Ruerue. Unaware of Pei Yuanqing's plans, Guan Ruerue hugged Pei Yuanqing and began to cry about her nightmares these past 2 days. She kept saying how scared she was, speaking so incoherently that Pei Yuanqing didn't understand a single word. He only felt that Guan Ruerue was indeed too delicate. She had a nightmare and still needed him to coax her. Thinking of this, Pei Yuanqing was even more certain that a delicate little princess like Guan Ruerue was not suitable for him. With a decision in his mind, he simply pulled her away. Ruerue, stop crying, get in the car first, let's talk somewhere else. The front of the villa was not a private place after all. Since he had decided to break up, Pei Yuanqing would naturally not bring her into his home again, and he didn't want the appearance of the two of them entangled to spread any more gossip. Guan Ruerue was focused on her nightmare and didn't notice Pei Yuanqing's roundabout way, obediently getting into the car with him. After getting in the car, she still held his arm tightly, looking dependent. Pei Yuanqing was a little helpless, but also felt a little guilty. If he broke up with such a girl who only had him in her eyes, how sad would she be? However, there was no other way. Thinking of this, Pei Yuanqing instantly put away all his impatience, determined to make the breakup decent, even if they had to break up. Ruerue, actually, even if you didn't come to me, I was planning to find you. Guan Ruerue, with dark circles under her eyes, looked up. Brother Yuanqing, I knew you were thinking of me. Pei Yuanqing looked at the dark circles under her eyes, and only felt that Guan Ruerue was truly unbearable to look at now. He coughed dryly, and still tried to pull his arm back from her grasp. I have something to tell you. Neither of them saw that the strands of black qi on Guan Ruerue's body had already wrapped around Pei Yuanqing's arm along with her movements when she hugged his arm. Even when he pulled away at this moment, it still felt like silk threads were entangled. Guan Ruerue finally noticed that Pei Yuanqing's attitude was not right. She cautiously opened her mouth and asked him, Brother Yuanqing, what do you want to tell me? Pei Yuanqing sighed and said, Ruerue, I think we're not suitable. As soon as the words fell, before Guan Ruerue could react, the driver in front suddenly let out a cry of surprise. The two subconsciously turned their heads, only to see a car coming straight at them. Bang! The two cars collided fiercely. The huge noise instantly echoed throughout the street.